Welcome, everyone, and happy International Women's Day. My name is Sherry West, and I am the founder and CEO of LiveGirl, and we're so glad that you've joined us to celebrate International Women's Day, which is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. Today's theme is Choose to Challenge Gender Bias and Inequality. And today at the White House, President Biden will mark the day by signing 2 executive orders geared toward promoting gender equity to restore America as a champion for girls and women. And at LiveGirl, we're more committed than ever to our work of building confident, inclusive leaders. We work with girls in grade 5 through college and equip them with the skills, mentors, role models, and experiences to thrive and to be the inclusive leaders we need ready to challenge gender and racial inequality. Today, you will hear from some esteemed guests and a brilliant Gen Z panel on what we must all do to build a more inclusive and equal future. And to get us started, we have 2 champions who will say a few words of welcome. I'm first honored to introduce Kate Farrar, CT State Representative of the 20th District and a tireless champion of women and girls inequality. Kate?
Thank you, Sherry, and hello to all of the LiveGirl family out there. We are a squad, I know, strong across our state, and I am so pleased that we can come together even in this virtual format to say that on this International Women's Day, not only are we seeing our first woman VP in the White House, but we have more women serving in Congress than ever before. I joined the ranks here at the State House with more women in our state legislature than ever before. And I can tell you, actually, I have to share, this morning I read this great book, if you don't know it, Sophia Valdez, Future Prez, for our own school, because we know that by having more women visible in making change in our political system, this is how we show our future just what is possible. And I know in going through this last year as women, we have felt the crisis every day. COVID has exacerbated these inequities that have been in our lives, especially for women and especially for women of color. And to me, this is the true moment that, in seeing how our voices can be heard and make change, that we use our voices to ensure that this recovery centers those needs of women. So I'm proud even today, I'm in committee hearings by Zoom, and we're talking about childcare, we're talking about education, we're talking about paid leave, we're talking about paid sick days, all issues that are essential for women to not just get back to work, but to really close the equal pay gaps and advance in high wage and high growth careers. I know for all of you out there that you are here for a reason, because you believe in the power of women. And I would encourage you that today, in choosing your challenge, you choose your challenge to use your voice to share what you care about with your elected official. So with your state representative, like I am, or your state senator, your voice and your voice on women and what you care about for women and girls in your own community matters. So I choose that challenge, and I encourage you to choose that challenge to use your voice for change as we come out of this crisis. And I am so honored to be with you, Sherry, and am just thrilled to be part of the LiveGirl virtual squad today.
Thank you so much, Representative Farrar. Thank you for your leadership and your tireless championing of women and girls and all of your service and work that you're doing to advocate for women and girls. Thank you for being here today. And now we'll let you go back to the House floor. And next, I'm honored to introduce Lucy French, who is the Vice President of Bankwell, a valued community partner. And she's going to say a few words about the importance of her company, Bankwell, supporting women and girls. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Happy International Women's Day. I feel like this year, International Women's Day is more important than ever, with many things that are going around in the world. I think when we talk about the importance of women leaders, the answer seems pretty simple. Women make up half of the population and have the right to equal representation in decision making. Women deserve equal say and power over the decisions that affect our lives in our homes, communities, countries, as well in regional and international spaces. We know that supporting skills development, building confidence, and connecting women through networks boosts women's participation and leadership. But when it comes to young women, most of that data leaves them out. Yet the case for young women being encouraged to lead is an important one. And that is one of the big reasons why we are a long-term and proud partner of LiveGirl, for their commitment to building leadership in young girls is crucial, especially in today's society. By supporting the next wave of women leaders, we can ensure women in all their diversities are represented in positions of power. So thank you to LiveGirl and for everything that you do for the young women in our communities that are helping build the next generation of women who will change the world.
Lucy, if we were at a LiveGirl Leadership Summit, we'd all be giving you snaps right now. So well said. Thank you so much. And thank you to Bankwell for your partnership. And I know we've got a lot of Bankwell employees listening in today, so welcome. And I'd also like to welcome the employees from all of our different partners, AXA XL and Refinitiv and Stone Point Capital. We feel so fortunate to be able to come together with community partners like you to amplify our work and to be able to reach more girls. So thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you for having us. We're happy to be here.
And so next we have a very special guest, and I promise you're going to be in tears and inspired, and you'll just be overwhelmed with joy by our next guest. I'm honored to introduce Cheyenne Tyler Jacobs, a poetic activist, word enthusiast, community organizer, spoken word artist, and author. She has published 2 books. Her most recent, The Tragic Type of Beautiful, is a must read. It's a moving anthology of poetry. And Cheyenne currently resides in Atlanta, where she's continuing her work tackling the issues of racism, sexual violence, and homelessness through art and activism. She is a dear, dear friend of LiveGirl and of mine personally. Welcome, Cheyenne. And I understand that you have an original poem to share with us today on International Women's Day called It Looks Like.
Yes, so first and foremost, happy International Women and Girls Day. And thank you all so much for taking time to be here and to hear this poem. I've definitely, and Sherry knows personally, which I feel the LiveGirl community will know soon enough, but Sherry knows, so she knows it's very good news. I've had to take a step back from writing and from a lot of my work to do a lot in the film industry, which for those of you who know, I want to be a filmmaker and writer. So I'm very blessed to have had the opportunity to step back into my first form of medium and my first form of love, which is poetry and writing. So thank you, Sherry, for allowing me to have those breaks for myself, but still always including me home, because LiveGirl is home for me. So this piece is called It Looks Like. Thoughts while we look in the mirror. It looks like, can you just say it a little bit quieter? It looks like, do you always have to have an answer? It looks like hearing them say there's no such thing as a pay gap. It looks like hearing, wow, you articulated that point like so clearly. It looks like, but why do you have to be so mean about it? Breaking generational trauma and crushing the patriarchy looks a lot like discomfort for so many who have been sitting pretty in their privilege for centuries. To come against the system that wasn't created for us is an opportunity to write new narratives of stories that should have been told in creation's beginning. An opportunity for us to finally have ownership over our words, our bodies, for her story to finally be told without edits, without contingencies, because I don't know about you, but I am tired of footnotes from people trying to undercut my story being placed at the bottom of my paragraphs. To be both woman, girl, and be strong has sounded too much like simmer down. It sounded too much like playing pretty in the patriarchy. Once again, it has sounded like making us fight for seats at a table our ancestors probably would have burned down anyway. Tables we should have never wanted invites to anyway. To be woman and to fight the system is to find joy in our beings, because we know we were created to live life unapologetically and beautifully. To be woman and break boundaries looks like all of us in this room not afraid to spread our light. It looks like women every day setting the record straight. It looks like, excuse me, I'm speaking during vice presidential meetings. It looks like AOC in Congress with red lipstick and hoop earrings. It looks like neurodiversity and Greta lobbying for climate change. It looks like Stonewall and Marsha P. Johnson igniting the flame. It looks like Amanda Gorman finding her voice and giving hope to a nation. It looks like Stacey Abrams and her grassroots work to end. It looks like Stacey Abrams and her work for voter registration. To me, it looks like Sherry West and LiveGirl reconstructing girls' education. It looks like us stepping into the truth. So stop asking permission to take up space. When you're light, it lights up a whole room. Your presence is engulfing. Your voice is power. Your name, it's memorable. When you look in mirrors, they should thank you for giving it its presence. When you look in a mirror, you should see all of your ancestors and the vision of every woman who fought for change holding you up. Your passion is the definition of intentional. Your creativity is the definition of innovation. You are a threat to so many who want you silent. You indeed look like the system's worst nightmare, but I promise, you are our wildest dreams. You are a blank canvas waiting to document your story. You look like, well, you look like exactly who we've been waiting for. You look like hope. And I hope that's what you see when you look in the mirror, because that's what you look like. Thank you.
Okay, Cheyenne. Okay, we're gonna give you some LiveGirl snaps too, but I'm actually just taking a moment to breathe and let it wash over me that I made it into one of Cheyenne's poems. I'm so honored. You are such an inspiration, and thank you for always having the perfect words and teaching us all about the power of words to really light the way forward. And you know, Amanda Gorman is not the only one who is finding her voice and bringing us all hope. You are a treasure to this world, Cheyenne. You are our queen. You are our sister. We love you so much. Thank you for being a part of our community. And thank you for really delivering the perfect poem for International Women's Day.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for having me. I love LiveGirl and I love you, Sherry. And congrats to LiveGirl for all of the work you're doing and for making it to the New York Times.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cheyenne. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're so excited now to get into the main event, which is going to be a discussion with a Gen Z panel, a brilliant Gen Z panel. The title of the panel is How Can We Choose to Challenge Gender Bias and Inequality? And first, I'd like to introduce the panel moderator. I'm honored to introduce Dr. Vida Samuel, a professor at University of Connecticut, Stamford. Dr. Samuel is an assistant professor in residence at UConn, and she is a scholar in women's studies and intercultural communication with her PhD from Howard University. She is a LiveGirl board member, and her visionary leadership and advisory have allowed our program curricula and reach to flourish. So thank you so much, Dr. Vida Samuel, for joining us today. I understand you're going to say a few words before we introduce our Gen Z panel. So go ahead and take it away.
Hello, everyone. And, thank you for choosing to spend this time with us in solidarity of and in observance of this important day. Let me echo Sherry's welcome and thank you, Sherry, to LiveGirl's celebration of International Women's Day. And Cheyenne, thank you for those words, which are invariably impactful and resonant. And I think it looks like requires its own dialogue, by the way. So every day, women and girls are tasked with considering what celebrating our places in this world might mean in the context of an ever-growing antagonistic place for women and girls. As a matter of fact, most of this contentiousness has not changed much for many global communities. We might look to the events in Myanmar, the constant kidnapping of girls in Nigeria, and certainly the United Nations World's Women Report. The document the top 10 both best and worst places to be a girl or woman in the world. Countries that demonstrate a failure or success in gender equality. Here in the United States, where we live, we're not doing as well as we should. We rank 45th behind Canada, Norway, Croatia, Iceland, Australia, Austria, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, and Singapore. And though the United States scored high in health and education, its ranking was hurt by its relatively low scores in violence against women and inequality in the workplace, which of course we continue to see often and was especially visible and challenging in the last year of living in this pandemic. But here, in our small section of the world in Fairfield County, we resolved to intensify our call to change and magnify the sources of inequality, starting with insightful and relevant dialogue. We developed a model for what that change should look like and how to initiate it from an early age, specifically with girls and young women. It is why LiveGirl exists, with all its various programs that consider the uniqueness of each girl who participates in our program, with the understanding that any kind of bias and inequality is hurtful and counterproductive to everyone. We first immersed ourselves in learning how to contest biases and inequality from within, and continue to bring our learned lessons to our homes, our friends, our remote workplaces. LiveGirl participants are empowered with a toolbox to confidently call out and root out the very things that disable their progress as young girls, and replace them with affirmative and dynamic practices that is valuable in successfully navigating their journeys. In this 21st century, random acts of kindness must now extend to calling out gender bias and inequality in a way that produces more thoughtful human beings generally. One way we create a more just world for girls and women, and by extension, every population, is in listening to contrary opinions and creating a dialogue that contributes to an alternative way of knowing, challenging stereotypes and a foundation for our intentional acts. Much like this conversation today. Everyone has their own way of making meaning of their lives and understanding the world. Feminist standpoint and intersectional theories taught us that. The United Nations points to educating girls as one of the most important pillars to advance women's basic human rights, partly because women are seen as the bottom of the social ecosystem, and partly because education access is not a priority for a shifting population of mostly women and children. In this LiveGirl celebration, I am thrilled to facilitate a conversation with 4 intellectually luminous young women who in the future will fill the critical thought, professional, and humanitarian void left open by many of us, and who will innovate and modernize a world that is just and equitable. I have every faith that they will. So let's get started. So hello, Karen and Micah and Kelly and Naya. I think we're still waiting for Micah. Hi, hello everyone. So of course I get to have this discussion with you, and I feel so proud and so excited to pick these magnificent brains. So here we go. And this question, by the way, the first question is for all of you. I want you to think of a time and describe any racial or gender biases you observed in your school or work environments or everyday interactions. And Karen, let's start with you.
Yeah, of course. So I would definitely say as a finance and business analytics student, I had an internship program this past summer with Verizon. And in a team of 200 people in the finance department I worked with, I think 16 were female. Just so I think it just happened to be like a pattern with that. And then within my own intern team, there were 3 individuals and I was the only female of that team as well. So definitely feeling a really intimidating environment, feeling a lot of not necessarily biases, but there were times where, there was a task and the 2 guys on my team would say, we could work on it or we could do this. And just kind of feeling that, I guess, seclusion in a way, it kind of got to your head and it wondered why was I being left out of this? I could, I can do the same projects as well, So definitely feeling that type of bias was something that I've experienced in the workplace.
Thank you so much for that. I think this so calls for, I guess, more visibility of women, right? In places like this, 3 out of 1 group or 16 out of 200, that almost seems unacceptable in the 21st century. Kelly, thank you so much for that.
So thank you for calling on me. I have a similar story. Growing up, I always loved math, and people always look at me like, "You love math?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And then I had an interest in computers, so I wanted my major to be computer science. Then I went through the motions of, well, maybe I want to be an engineer, but what kind of engineer? And then I went through the aviation land, which I found out that's not for me, but I'm excited that I went through that journey, and I went through a program. And not only was I the only girl of 20 guys who went to private schools, but I was the only Black person too. And so having those 2 factors and saying, I can do this, I'm allowed in this room, or I'm willing, well, I am able to be, I want to say able, but I was meant to be in this room, and I'm capable as well to learn aviation. So when I told my group mates, which were all guys, and I told them, I said, like, I want to do computers. Can I do the coding for the drone? And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. But they didn't really think I'll be able or capable to do it. And then one day they started coding the drone. And I said, wait, I told you guys, like, I'm capable of doing this. And they were like, well, we didn't really think you can do it. And I said, well, why did you think that? Well, you're a girl and we just didn't know if you really had the skills and capable of doing this. I said, well, I am. I said, well, let me show you, I can do this. And not only that, I became the project manager of our project. So I was showing them different levels of different activities and skills that I could present for being a female as well as being a Black female. But that's something that I had to observe firsthand, and I'm grateful for that experience. But at the same time, there needs to be more females and people of color within the tech industry for those feelings to change.
And that is what the power of advocating for yourself looks like, right? Confidently. Thank you so much, Kelly. Brianna.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Brianna. I'm a senior at Sacred Heart. And it wasn't until like probably my senior year of high school, I joined a business club. And at first, like people in my high school was very like business was like male dominated, like really like no one in my high school was a woman in business. And I joined this club and I was just like, I walked into the first meeting and it was probably two women, me and another lady, and just men. And it was like almost frowned upon. My friends like, why would you join this club? Like it's all boys. Like, and I was at this point I was like interested in business in college, and I was like, well, I just want to venture out. I want to know what I want to do. And it was just like almost like a standoff, very like hostile environment, and it was really uncomfortable. But it took me to get a lot of confidence to build that up and stay there and not drop out and not listen to my friends for kind of almost tearing me down. And it's taught me to be such like a woman empowering woman, and like, why would you tear someone down when that's what they enjoy, but that's what they're passionate about? And yeah.
Yet another demonstration of advocating for yourself, right? You felt powerful enough to join the group and speak your, all right. Micah, and then Nia will go after.
Well, I can honestly say I'm fortunate enough from being in that I have not observed any biases recently as me being in college. but I can definitely say that in high school and in middle school and elementary school, you know, I was in talented and gifted programs, and people would honestly constantly undermine my abilities because I was a woman and I was a woman of color. So I can definitely understand where everybody else is coming from. It's very frustrating.
Thank you, Micah. Yeah.
Hi. I'm gonna actually piggyback off of Kelly a little bit with just women in computer science and in STEM fields, and how that can be just kind of intimidating because you don't see a lot of women in STEM. But I'm gonna take a little positive angle on this question. At my school, we actually have a female computer science teacher, and she's also a female business teacher. And there was recently an article in our newspaper about her, and she used to work in STEM, and she was like the only woman in any of her classes and in any of her fields. And she actually went into teaching because she wanted to recruit more women. And I've taken like 3 computer science courses with her over my years in high school. And like all of her classrooms are equal in the amount of women and girls and guys who take them. And I think that's just like a little, like a hopeful bit of closing that gender gap, and people like her who experienced it working to make a more inclusive future for the rest of us. So, yeah.
So do you see that as a model that we should be following ultimately?
Definitely. I think when you see someone that looks like you doing amazing things, it gives you more confidence and in yourself and your own abilities to accomplish that kind of success.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So the first question was a foundation for all the other questions, because we assume that as girls and women, we may have experienced some form of bias that has forever changed the way we live and the way our worlds are informed, right? So this group represents a generation that is more familiar with social media than previous generations. If you have older siblings, you may very well know more than they do. So can you describe the kind of biases that you've encountered in popular culture or social media? And by the way, let me know if these biases first appeared as stereotypes, if you can recall. I'm going to go with, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So this question just like, it captured me because I'm very involved in social media. I love just everything, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's all like people going out there, putting themselves out there, sharing their thoughts, their feelings, what they're doing, their everything. And I think that the most important thing is women being silenced on social media and in pop culture. I'm not sure if everyone heard, but Meghan Markle and Prince Harry did a interview with Oprah last night about just them backing down from the royal family and like the whole everything that's gone down. And I think the most important thing with Meghan coming out and speaking about this is the silence that women like face in pop culture, and whether it's about, you know, sexual harassment, about racism, it's just them being silenced and their thoughts and their feelings being compressed and kept down. And she said this quote, actually, I'm going to read it. I was sitting in Nottingham Cottage and the Little Mermaid came on, and I went, oh my God, she falls in love with the prince. And because of that, she has to lose her voice. And I think this quote just, I almost cried when I read it, because it's, why should women be silenced because of men? And especially coming out and sharing their experiences and traumatic experiences that have happened. It's so powerful. And I think that we really need to step up and bring women up and bring them onto that pedestal that they need.
And you're saying that you observed a lot of that happening on social media.
Yeah, I think now it's becoming more of women becoming so much more confident and not letting men and everyone else tear them down when they come out with their stories and things that have happened. And I think that's really a right step in the direction, a good step in the right direction.
Thank you, Brianna. Does anybody else want to answer that question? And I could repeat it, right? So what kind of biases? Can you describe any biases that you've encountered on social media and popular culture?
I mean, I know that there's a lot of unrealistic body images and just kind of what like a perfect person looks like online. And it's really interesting, these filters on Instagram or Snapchat, the differences are almost imperceptible at first glance, but if you kind of look at what the original photo is versus the edited photo, we're like competing against things that don't even exist, and that can be kind of terrifying and exhausting for not just like women, even men in society. This unattainable kind of perfection that is propagated through social media.
And I'm so happy for your observation on that, because, you know, one of the things that LiveGirl says is that you are enough, right? It's what you learn. It's one of the things that you learn. LiveGirl's objective is to build confident leaders. And it is also possible that you hold leadership positions in your school. What barriers have you faced in becoming a leader? Some of you have described it based on your internships being the only one or one of very few. What other barriers could you think of that you've faced in becoming a leader? And Kieran?
Yeah, of course. I think just finding the confidence overall to have a voice is quite difficult being a female. I think one thing for me that's really big is like the cultural norms, I guess. Like in South Asian communities, there's a wide perception of women being like soft-spoken and not necessarily speaking their minds. And I think that that's definitely probably just subconsciously come with me through like growing up, and just made me, you know, not as confident necessarily speaking confidently about things I'm passionate about. And I think definitely understanding and recognizing that, I guess, that cultural stereotype, and just working past it and understanding, you know, it is okay to speak your voice. It is okay to speak how you feel and be confident about the things you're passionate about. I think those are definitely barriers I faced in becoming a leader.
That is true. Micah?
I agree with her. It's constantly being belittled and undermined, and thinking that you're not capable as a man, or as a white man in particular. And it's just basically finding the strength in your voice and finding the power in your abilities to, you know, pursue what you need to become, which is a successful leader.
And while I have you there, as a woman of color, what unique challenges do you face at the intersection of race and gender?
Oh, sorry, is this for me?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so you know, being a woman of color, you know, we're basically at the bottom of the social hierarchy. So, you know, I guess that's just the unique challenge, is that, you know, not only are we women, which is technically believed to be underneath men, but we're also, especially Black women, you know, we're at the bottom of the bottom. And I just think that in itself is very unique. It's unfortunate, and it's just the struggles, the resilience that we need to push through. I think that in itself, that's a unique challenge that we face.
Thank you so much for that. Kieran, I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely as a woman of color in a business field, especially finance, it's typically a white male dominated field. So it was really intimidating for me coming into college and seeing, you know, being very nervous about different opportunities that I would be able to even have. I think so many programs with different companies I've been to, you can just see, like, even virtually on the WebEx, you'll see like 3 females, and like just in general, like very few people of color. So it's really intimidating and really, in a way, very disappointing, because you think that, you know, in the 21st century at this day and age, we would have been a little further by now. So I think that's definitely been really hard for me, finding career opportunities and just being like comfortable with my major and like with my career goals. So it's definitely been a big barrier for that.
Yeah, I've got to tell you, I think every generation thinks, oh, our generation is going to do better for the next. And there are always these barriers. And so I'm incredibly thrilled that you all are taking up this mantle, because you're doing something different for the next generation coming behind you. Kelly, how has the election of Vice President Kamala Harris, the first woman of color, inspired you? In other words, you know, explain the importance of representation to you.
So when Kamala Harris was elected VP, I actually cried. It was so powerful because I knew I would see it one day, but I didn't know it was going to be this early in my lifespan. Seeing representation means a lot. When you don't have representation, it's hard to believe that I can be, but also she broke the glass ceiling. It's just now for us to elevate ourselves and put ourselves in those positions to say, yes, I'm there. I got invited, or I open up that door. So now I have bring more females. I always encourage when I ever get an opportunity, I just don't say I'm just there. I bring another seat or pull up another table for my other friends or other females to give them the opportunity, because representation, it goes a long way. When we still see the standards, you believe that is the standards, and it's really not.
And Nia, I'm sure that over the course of even before the election, right, you kept on hearing Kamala Harris is the first Southeast Asian, right, person to run for public office in that way, higher public office. What were your thoughts? What does that mean to you?
It's funny because today I was on Google and they have that little fun info box if you click on the Google sign, and there was this quote that I saw by Maya Gabeira. She's this Brazilian surfer who made a bunch of records this year, and she said, "Once the impossible becomes possible, it means anyone can do it. I'm glad to have made that happen for girls." And I think, first of all, it's kind of saddening that in hundreds of years of history, in the highest office of land, we've really only had white men representing us when 50% of our population is female. And Kamala Harris's nomination and her success in achieving that spot in our office means that it's a first, and when there's a first, there can be seconds and thirds and countless more. And it also means that we have a voice that actually understands our struggles and can relate to our experiences and represent that in an authentic way. And that's pretty remarkable. And I'm seriously glad to have at least witnessed that in my lifetime. And now I'm just waiting for a female president.
Yes, we are too. It's about to happen, I think. If not, we're depending on one of you. So this is a question for each one of you. You know, what are the role models? Can you name one of the role model who inspires you to challenge gender bias and inequality? And let's start with Kelly, and then we'll work our way around.
So my role model / mentor in my head, like she's my best friend, is Felicia Butterfield Jones. She's the chief of diversity and inclusion for the Recording Academy. But she broke that stereotype of females can do it by becoming this first ever executive position in diversity and inclusion.
Well, very good. Karen.
I know this could be kind of cliche, but definitely for me, Michelle Obama. I think her voice is just so unique and so powerful. And I think like every time, I know in my house, every time there's some sort of speech or event with the Obamas, like it's full blast, like everyone in my family gets so motivated, which is crazy to me because I think it's just so unique. She's such a strong leader, and such a, like being one of the first, like one of the women in color in a, I guess, a first family of sorts, you know, like that's just really inspirational to me as a woman of color, and definitely inspirational to like everyone I know, even just in general. She just has such a powerful voice. It's amazing to me.
And I have to say that I think that she has done it without having to stand on the top of a mountain and screaming, right? Thank you, Karen. Micah.
So I actually want to say my everyday mentors. So all of my mentors are women of color, and seeing their success and how far they've come is just a leading example of what inspires me to challenge gender bias and inequality. You know, them being the successful women they are and offering their guidance gives me hope that it is possible to pursue my dreams. You know, they paved the path for me to pave the way for others. And I believe that that in itself just makes it easier to challenge our bias system as a woman of color.
Thank you, Brianna.
I am a Greta Thunberg. I love her. I think she is so inspiring, especially for the next generation coming. She's so young, and her words are, I can't, like, beyond powerful. And I think she is so important, not even relating to climate change or whatever, but I think just in speaking in what you believe in and being a young girl, just tackling the issues of environment and just using her words to really become so powerful and change the world in the future.
And that she's doing. And yeah.
There are so many remarkable women, so it's hard to choose, but someone who's on my mind right now is Toni Morrison. I think she is just a brilliant writer in the way she was able to address so many of the social inequalities African-American people were facing, particularly African-American women were facing, through just the most eloquent and beautiful prose. Just speaks to the power of writing and also the power of speaking out against injustice.
All right, I want you to stay on because I want, in this last minute, I want you each to pick one thing that you think could be the next step for our attendees to take in the progress of equality and inclusion. So Naya, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Kelly, then we'll go to Micah, Brianna, and then Kieran.
I think we kind of talked about this a bit today, but imposter syndrome and just the feeling that I don't belong here, or it's not my hard work and success isn't exactly what got me here. It was by luck or chance. It's been proven through countless studies that when women have mentors and people who to talk to when they're going through this and people to look up to and representation to look up to, they start to feel that significantly less. And I think attacking that feeling of inadequacy through either mentor support or sponsor support really works to elevate women to new levels and combat imposter syndrome.
I'm going to piggyback what Nia said. She said it so beautifully. Sponsorships goes a long way, especially for women and girls getting into the career fields and just school opportunities, showing up for them and also knowing that there's a space for them and showing that there is representation. That's another big thing that I would like the audience to take away from.
Yeah, also piggybacking off of Kelly, you know, finding students, people of color, those who are in need, being their mentor, their sponsors, you know, reaching out to schools, universities, seeing how you can offer their assistance, or even donating to programs such as this one that prioritizes equality and inclusion.
As everyone beautifully said, it's just, you're only as strong as the people who back you and have your back and are hand in hand with you. And I think that mentors, sponsors, everything LiveGirl's doing is just, it's paving the way for women, young girls, and everyone in between.
Going off of all of that, I think Dea put it really well, speaking about the imposter syndrome. I think also just understanding the difference between sponsorship and mentorship is really important. I think that we really obviously at LiveGirl appreciate both, and I think we need more of both just in the world in general. I know my mentors personally, whether they are through LiveGirl or even through Rutgers University where I attend college, I think those have definitely been really impactful on me. And I think just understanding that both are necessary and both are needed is really important.
Thank you all, by the way, so very much for agreeing to have this conversation in earnest. I see, as I said earlier, I think your minds are so illuminating and illuminous. So thank you all very much. And let me just turn it back to Sherry.
Ladies, we are cheering so loudly for all of you. You are so brilliant and bold and fierce. Thank you, Dr. Samuel, for sharing your expertise with us and for moderating today's panel. And Kieran, Kelly, Brianna, Micah, and Naya, thank you for being such the bold, fierce, inclusive leaders that our world needs right now. You all are magnificent. You all amaze me. And we are, although you can't see the audience because it's a webinar, everyone is cheering so loudly for you right now and giving you snaps. We're gonna wrap up and close today's International Women's Day celebration. And I just wanna say to our audience that you've heard today from these brilliant young leaders, some of the things holding them back, from lack of representation to social media's unattainable perfection, from harassment to discrimination to unequal pay. So the question we pose to you today is, how will you choose to challenge gender bias and inequality? And together we can do the work and we can make the impossible possible for these brilliant young women. So today we celebrate, tomorrow we continue the work, but today we do celebrate International Women's Day because women have done so much. And some women right now are working from home and homeschooling and doing so much more. And we stand on the shoulders of the women who came before us. And there's much on our shoulders right now. So let's take a moment to be proud and celebrate and proud of who we are and what we have done for women and everyone around us. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you to Bankwell for sponsoring today's event. And you can learn more about all of our programs at Go Live Girl. Again, we have free of charge year-round leadership development and mentoring programs for girls starting in grade 5 and going all the way through college. And together we will build an equal, inclusive future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.